Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More, the 7-step personalized sleep plan to transform your health. I'm Lisa Bonitz, and I'll be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of KP Khalsa and address questions about his upcoming 7-week course, End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More, which begins Thursday, May 2nd. Later, I'll explain how you can participate in this course even if you can't attend the live sessions, but first, I want to introduce our guest. KP Khalsa has 48 years of experience in holistic medicine and is one of the foremost natural healing experts in North America. He's president emeritus of the American Herbalist Guild and trained with Ayurvedic master Yogi Bhajan for 32 years. He's nationally credentialed to teach herbalism, yoga, and Ayurvedic massage, and is one of the first nationally certified instructors of Kundalini Yoga in the United States. KP holds a doctorate in Ayurveda and is a professor at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy. He's also a founding faculty in the Ayurvedic Sciences program at Bastyr University and a faculty member in the Botanical Medicine Department at the National College of Natural Medicine, where he trains naturopathic medical students and teaches Ayurveda. And in just a few minutes, we're going to get into some questions from our audience. But first, I want to welcome KP Khalsa. Welcome, KP.
Hi there. So nice to be here again. Looking forward to all these questions.
This is going to be a great conversation. I know I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, and we have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for KP as we prepare for his upcoming course. Again, that's called End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More. Long title, but lots to say about it. And that begins Thursday, May 2nd. And if you want to check out the website while we're chatting and learn more about the 7-week course, you can visit endyoursleepstruggles.com to see the full description. And if you have a question for KP, go ahead and type it in, and I'll be happy to pass your questions along. And in the meantime, let's start with sort of just a foundational question, because people are wondering, there's a ton of information out there about sleep, and what is it about this course that's going to make it different from just Googling?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So let's just sort of dig into why this whole thing is even happening. I've been dealing with real people in the real world for almost 50 years now, and this issue with sleep is becoming increasingly a problem. And I just hear every single day, since I specialize in neurology and issues of the nervous system, especially, I hear a lot about it. And I've just noticed that people are having tremendous problems with trying to figure out how to be able to sleep, what's going to work. And it's been getting worse over the years, and it's been getting worse for individuals, of course, including everybody in our culture. So I just thought we would dive into sleep from A to Z and really figure out over a long enough period to be able to really tackle it, what's happening with people's individual sleep problems. It's sort of a sleep boot camp or sleep discovery journey, something like that. The first problem with the internet, of course, is that it's difficult to know whether somebody who's writing something on the internet knows what they're talking about. So just because something is on the internet doesn't mean it's going to work or is valid in any way. But even if we assume that the multiple blogs and websites talking about sleep are accurate, the problem is figuring out all the constellation of issues that contribute to people's sleep problems. So what tends to happen is people Google something and find some suggestion, some supplement or sleep hygiene procedure, diet, or whatever it may be. They try it, it doesn't work. They go to the next one, it doesn't work. And I've talked to people, I think we'll probably hear from people, I expect, who have tried 20 things, they'll tell us, and nothing has worked. The problem is they're chipping away at the edges of the problem, and none of these things are going to work. If you have 10 roots to the sleep problem tree and you trim one branch, it's not going to be enough to be noticeable. So we're going to go through about 8 different things each week in sort of an accelerating way, a methodical, consistent way, starting with the mildest remedies and the mildest concerns first. We want to do the minimum that works, but not overdo it. So we're going to start with those things. And each week when we get together, we're going to talk about these different categories, herbs, supplements, diet, sleep practices, sleep, meditation, breathing. So it's an overall package. And I think that will give people a huge basket of techniques. They can try all of them. The things that work, they can add to their program, and we'll just keep adding week after week. And we'll get more and more potent each time we get together. So it's an all-inclusive A to Z, soup to nuts sleep boot camp that I think for many people will be the answer to their fruitless struggle to just try one random thing after another.
Okay, great. That sounds really helpful. And in fact, you mentioned that a lot of people have tried a whole bunch of different things. So let's start with a question that fits that perfectly. This is from Kristen. It's a little lengthy, so give me a second to read this. Kristen says, I've lots of trouble getting a decent night's sleep. I use GABA, tryptophan, melatonin, magnesium, and taurine, which help me get to sleep usually at 9:30 or 10. But when I wake up at 2 or 3 or 4 a.m., if I take the supplements, they don't get me back to sleep. She says, I fit the ashwagandha profile except for always being cold. I seem to alternate hot and cold, and I'm always constipated unless I take tons of magnesium. So Kristen's wondering, do you have any ideas for her?
Yeah, well, first, congratulations with finding a program that works, in parentheses, usually. So at least there's something there. One of the main problems that people have with natural medicine, and I just have to emphasize this over and over, is just not using enough, frankly, because we're used to our drug-oriented mindset. And when you take a Lunesta, you take one tiny pill, it knocks you right out, and that's it. The doses of natural medicines tend to be higher, so it's more pills or more, herb in a tea or whatever it is, and people just aren't used to that, and so they often use tiny doses of things. I'm not saying Kristen does this, but just that they try one little thing, it doesn't work, another little thing, and they're taking maybe 1/10 of the dose we actually expect to work. But because people are concerned about dose issues from their drug experience, they're expecting the non-drug drug that works like a drug. We just don't have that. Very often it does have to be a multiple basket of things like this. And then what usually I have to advise people to do is just to take more. When they tell me what they've been taking, it's a half or 1/10 or something of the dose that's really going to work. So she talked about what she called this ashwagandha profile. And in other descriptions, I've talked about the Ayurvedic herb ashwagandha, which is likely to work very well. And we could talk about that a little bit more later. But there's a certain type of physiology that's consistent for about 1/3 of human beings on planet Earth. And it's the type of physiology that creates insomnia. And it's a combination of some factors of being cold, dry, less grounded, having inadequate digestion, constipation. I'm sure we'll have somebody ask a question about constipation because I've talked about it. Constipation doesn't directly cause insomnia, but the same kinds of people that have constipation tend to be the same kind of people that have insomnia. So she said she fits this profile, and she's always cold. Let me just define that term a little bit, because in natural medicine, when we use the term cold, a better word would be hypometabolic. Underperforming metabolically, a body that's not able to convert calories from food into energy in the body to run all the aspects of the body. So these hypometabolic, or what we would call in natural medicine cold people, tend to have low blood pressure, low circulation to the extremities, low secretions from all their various organs, including the digestive tract. That means that they don't secrete enough digestive juices to make use of all the food that they're eating. So they tend to be fatigued in general. They don't always necessarily feel cold. Now, if you take this 1/3 of people that have chronic insomnia, they tend to be the coldest 1/3 of people. So if you walk into a room, you're having some meeting somewhere or something, and there are 100 people there, the third of the people that still have their sweaters on, those are those people. So metabolically cold just means that everything is running under functioning. Everything is going slowly, so they tend to digest their food inefficiently and slowly. They don't get all the energy out of it. It takes a long time to go from one end to the other. We mentioned the constipation issue. So not everybody that has this profile that I think she's heard me describe in other contexts feel cold. Most of them do, but some people have a normal body temperature. By the way, there is no body temperature. Body temperature is it's a bell curve like every other human function, and 98.6 is just the top of the bell curve. But most of you will discover that if you take your temperature consistently, it varies by about 2 degrees throughout the day anyway. And if you take it at the same time every day, you're probably likely to be maybe a half a degree under or over 98.6, and that's within a normal range. So you might not be officially cold temperature-wise, and you might not feel cold, but you're metabolically hypometabolic, under under functioning. So some of the people that have this insomnia profile that I'm describing, now that's not to say that everybody is going to have all these things. So Kristen is saying, well, she experiences most of this, but that she's not always cold. Sometimes she alternates between cold and hot. And that's another aspect. This is a body that can't regulate itself very well. So it can't decide whether it's awake or asleep and know which hormones to secrete for that purpose. These people typically will have energy one day, not the next. Good digestion one day, not the next. Energy to make it through the day one day, not the next. Good sleep one night, not the next. Generally speaking, poor sleep. Generally speaking, low energy, but it's variable. It's the variability that's the problem, the lack of ability to regulate and maintain homeostasis. So it can be alternating hot and cold. That would be within that same scenario. So as we deal with some more questions, we'll talk about some more specific remedies, and I think Kristen will get plenty of ideas as we continue to talk.
Right. Wow. That's fascinating. I can't wait to hear more. You were saying that people are asking about constipation. That's what this next question actually sort of deals with. There's no name attached to this one. They say, I have many of the symptoms you mentioned, but do not suffer from constipation, nor do I generally suffer from the cold. I've had hypothyroid problem for over 20 years and was diagnosed with sleep apnea last year. And we have people asking about apnea as well. This person continues, I'm 71 and have had insomnia on and off for over 30 years. Sometimes during the night, I can feel very cold internally, whereas my body is actually warm to the touch. I've never felt my thyroid is in proper balance on the meds, and the CPAP machine is affecting my natural breathing rhythm.
Yeah, that's the disadvantage of the CPAP machine. We'll talk about those in class, but that's not going to be the main focus of the class because that's something that sleep experts, medical doctors can deal with people anyway. But it's very bothersome to have a machine blasting air into your nose and then sucking the air back out of your lungs. And it helps people with sleep apnea, but it's very hard to get used to. Well, exactly as I was saying, the questioner here is asking about hypothyroid. I just talked about hypometabolism. So thyroid is the gland that mainly regulates your body temperature. So it's been medically hypo in this particular person's case. It's under functioning. So again, this doesn't necessarily relate to the way you feel in your own body. Many people who are what we would call hypometabolic. Unfortunately, we use this word cold in English because it's a hard concept to describe, and Ayurveda and Chinese medicine both use this term cold, but really, again, under functioning. So hypothyroid, she mentioned. So you may be warm to the touch, may not. Now, this underlying metabolic force that I'm talking about that tends to generate insomnia tends to not be able to regulate metabolism so that people can't fall asleep or stay asleep. Their body rhythms are all over the place. It has a sort of a rhythmic structure to it, and it tends to accelerate in the last 1/3 of life, which, of course, we know insomnia is a problem common to elders. This particular questioner mentioned that it's been for decades, but very often people find it more and more difficult as this cold, dry, light metabolic energy starts to expand. But it also has a daily cycle, and it maximizes at about 4 a.m. And so it starts to crank up as early as about 10 p.m., but it really gets rolling by around 2, and by about 4, it's maxed out. So 3 o'clock is the witching hour. If we ask we're going to hear, I think, from people one after another that say, I fall asleep fine, but I can't stay asleep. And if you ask them, when do you wake up? It's going to be 3 a.m. every time. That's when this whole thing really gets rolling. So that's another characteristic, and that was what this questioner was mentioning. Now, if we go back to Kristen, I was going to make a specific suggestion for her, and that's the herbal combination Triphala, Triphala, Triphala. This is the most widely used herbal combination in all of Ayurveda, and it just does something for everybody. It does so many things, but it happens to be a very mild laxative that's pretty much safe for everybody. And so I would suggest we usually give it to people in the evening because it takes about 10, 12 hours to do its job. So start with 1 gram at bedtime, increase by 1 gram each evening, until you're awakened by the desire to have a bowel movement, and the bowel movement is smooth, wet, comfortable, and everything is going well with that, and then adjust the time so that it arouses you to get to awaken. So people have different bedtimes. We'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more later, because I expect that'll come up in some questions. But so some people have to take the trefoil at maybe 6 o'clock or maybe 8 o'clock, depends on your metabolism. But you want to take the dose after you've worked up to it that awakens you with the bowel movement in the morning. That's the way the human body is supposed to work. When we lived in caves, everybody got up and had their bowel movement first thing in the morning. And I know this is a lot of bowel and constipation talk, but it's very connected to insomnia. So using the trefoil in that way, just about anybody can use it that way for constipation. We'll talk about it in much more detail in class. Okay, so I think that handles Kristen's question and the other question about the hypothyroid.
Okay, great. And it's interesting you should bring this up, because the next question I'm seeing here is from Tara, who wants to know, what is the best remedy for someone who falls asleep just fine but wakes up between 1 and 3 a.m.?
Well, there you go. I predicted. I've talked about these things so many times. I talk about it every day with people, and it's just, that's the witching hour. So I'm going to go back to ashwagandha that was mentioned originally by Kristen. And again, many people have heard me talk about this. One of my favorite herbs. It's an Ayurvedic herb. It was declared the herb of the year in the United States this year, actually, because it's a 50-year overnight sensation. I've been using it since day one in my practice, but now it's become much more mainstream. So ashwagandha is a fantastic sleep herb. And if I had to go to a desert island with 1,000 insomniacs, well, let me rephrase that. Maybe I don't want to do that. But if I had to pick one herb to treat insomnia the best overall, I would say ashwagandha. It helps to regulate sleep cycles. So it helps your body know when to produce awake hormones in the morning and when to produce sleep hormones in the evening. It does not make you sleepy when you take it. So it's not like Ambien that you wait until bedtime, you take it, knocks you out in 10 minutes. I would suggest that people start with, let's say, a half a teaspoon. If you use powder, it works very well. The doses can be fairly high, and so the powder is neutral tasting. You can just stir it in a little water and shoot it down, or a bite of food. And you could take this anytime during the day. It's not energizing or sedating during the day, but it will give you more energy gradually over time, more and more stamina, and help you fall asleep at bedtime and stay asleep. So half a teaspoon the first day, 2 teaspoons the next day. Divided doses with food would be good. And just stair-step the dose up like that until you find yourself sleepy at bedtime, able to fall asleep, stay asleep. It's probably the number one remedy for doing that. It's not a crisis control remedy, though. It might take a month for all that to kick in and you to nail down the proper dose. And we often use multi-tablespoon doses initially to saturate your body and have achieved this equilibrium that we're looking for. So ashwagandha, a good choice for that waking in the middle of the night.
Okay, great. You've already covered some of the aspects of this next question, but there's a couple things that are brand new. The question is basically, KP has said constipation contributes to poor sleep. I've tried many things, diet, herbs, magnesium, but still have chronic constipation. And this person does coffee enemas daily to not only clear the lower colon, but to stimulate bile flow and to detox their liver. But they'd really love to not have to do this. And so they're wondering, can you help with specific protocols, anything that maybe you haven't already mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an example of a person who is trying very hard to regulate this whole situation, but it's not a one issue concern. There is no one thing that's going to destroy constipation and regulate everything. It's a matter of all the things we're going to talk about in class. Remember, we're going to talk about 8 different categories of things you can do every single week. So we'll bring in breathing, meditation, sleep hygiene, and all that, a lot of which is covered on the internet if you sniff around enough. We'll bring in a number of unique things that I think you will not have found in other places. But a lot of it, if you read enough sleep blogs, you'd run into most of it. But it's just not coordinated. So people are just frantically trying to figure out what to try. So the thing with constipation is that there are 3 factors that you need to consider. Those are fiber, moisture, and peristalsis. So any of those can disrupt proper bowel function. So fiber is making sure that you eat food with enough fiber, which is vegetables, which is what Americans don't eat. Our government just announced that in spite of nearly 50 years of trying to get Americans to eat a variety of foods, still now in this year, the average American eats less than one serving. The government first wanted us to eat 10, then 5. Now we're down to 1 serving of fruits and vegetables combined. Isn't that astounding? The average American, one serving, less than one serving of combined fruit and vegetables. So where are they getting their fiber? Well, the answer is nowhere. So the fiber consumption of Americans is next to nil. The government recommends that we increase our fiber consumption on the whole by 5 times. People who eat a whole foods diet are eating 10 times the average, and that's what our bodies are wired for. We need that fiber, and so that's natural food, largely vegetables. Moisture is things that retain water in the digestive tract, and again, partly that would be fiber, but just making sure that you're eating warm, mushy food and that you do drink enough water. And we'll again dig into all these issues in the class. And then peristalsis is that squeezing that your large intestine does to push everything out. So let me suggest a particular remedy for peristalsis that might be valuable. And this, again, is another mild remedy, but it's used in all the big 3 natural healing systems, Western, Ayurveda, and Chinese, and that's rhubarb root. It's not the same rhubarb plant that we eat for a vegetable, but it's a close cousin. You can get the root of the rhubarb in any health food store. It's a mild squeezer. It works a little faster than the trifle. The trifle is more like 10 or 12 hours. The rhubarb is more like 4 to 6 hours. So that's probably not so good to take at night before bed to have a bowel movement in the morning. It's probably better to take during the day to enhance 1 or more bowel movements during the day. And again, the dose there would be to start with, let's say, 1 gram the first day, and work up gradually and stair step up to the dose that, along with more fiber and moisture, produces the rhubarb. Now, several of these people already have mentioned magnesium. That's what most people use in modern day to draw more water into the large intestine. Magnesium is very good for that, and so that's something you might add there. But anyway, that's a sort of a full-blown protocol for normalizing bowel function. That doesn't instantaneously solve insomnia because it's usually multifactorial, as we said, but it goes a long way to solving the digestive part of it.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. Let's move into another area. We are actually getting several people asking this specific question. So let me read Casey's version of it. Casey says, I wake up almost every 2 hours because my body gets so hot. I need to remove blankets to cool down the body and then try to get back to sleep. And we've got other people who are saying once an hour, every 45 minutes. It's the hot flashes are apparently a big deal. And they're just wondering, Casey specifically says, is there something I can do to stop this madness?
Let me recommend a single herbal remedy that I think just about everybody listening probably could benefit from. This is another Ayurvedic remedy called shatavari. Again, becoming very popular in our culture. This is a cousin to the asparagus that we eat as a vegetable. This is an asparagus that grows in Asia. It's also used in Chinese medicine. So we use the root in this case, Asian asparagus root, shatavari. And the beautiful thing about it is that it will knock hot flashes literally overnight if you take enough. I'm going to suggest that you stair-step your way into it just to be prudent. It never causes side effects, really, but just to be cautious. So a typical dose that will knock hot flashes in a day is about 15 grams. Again, you get this in powder form. It's virtually tasteless. You could just stir it into any beverage or bite of food and slug it down. 15 grams is going to be about 2 tablespoons. So take a week or so to work up to that. But most women would find that if they took 15 grams of shatavari today and continued to do that, they wouldn't have hot flashes tomorrow. It would just turn it off like a switch. The other beautiful thing about shatavari is that it's moistening to the gut. So we were just talking about that earlier. I mentioned magnesium, but also we can use shatavari internally to draw water to the large intestine and maintain that water there. It makes the digestive tract slippery and promotes the proper bowel movement. So you get a twofer for shatavari. It's an anti-aging remedy. It helps to heal bladder issues. So many things. It's just something that in Ayurveda, every woman is encouraged to start taking shatavari at puberty and take a very modest maintenance dose, like 2 grams every day for the rest of her life. So for the next 80 years. taking a couple grams of shatavari. But we can use a higher dose temporarily to solve these ideas that we're talking about.
Okay, wow. Thank you. We got a question here from Robin who says, I fall asleep fairly easily, but in the past year, I've started waking up sometimes several times in the middle of the night, and I think this is connected to adrenal issues. What advice do you have for someone who falls asleep easily but wakes during the night? She also adds, I have some kapha tendencies, phlegm, and weight gain, so I'm not a pure vata type. Also, will the upcoming class address sleep issues like waking during the night?
Well, Robin is using some Ayurvedic terminology here, which we will talk a bit about in class, but it's not an Ayurvedically oriented class. As I've already said, we're going to draw from all the big three natural healing traditions, Western, Ayurvedic, and Chinese, and not just herbal medicine, but dietetics. And then we're going to use modern ideas like these supplements we talked about and, modern sleep hygiene issues. So she mentioned that she has some kapha tendencies. These are names for the Ayurvedic understanding of these metabolic patterns that people have. And so the word kapha that she used is a type of pattern that's the opposite of insomnia. And usually people with that metabolic pattern, that genetics, that blueprint in their body, have no trouble sleeping and, in fact, may sleep excessively. So what she's getting at is the underlying blueprint, or just sort of the fabric of the way your body is put together. All these factors added up, your birthright, the way you were born with a type of body. So just like you might be 6 feet tall and have blue eyes like me, I happen to have this particular constitution she's talking about, kapha. I don't have sleep problems, and it would be expected. So we can look at these metabolic underlying blueprint issues that we're talking about in the short term, the medium term, and the long term. And so she's talking about long-term issues. Yes, she has a type of body that's unlikely to have sleep problems, but despite that, she has the sleep problems anyway. So we call that underlying blueprint the constitution. So constitutionally, she's not programmed to have this problem, but these metabolic underlying imbalances can show up in anybody. So you can have someone who was not meant to have these problems, but developed it through diet and lifestyle choices. And are we going to cover this in the class, waking during the night? Absolutely. Well, I think every question so far has been about waking during the night. So it's going to be a major theme. We'll talk about long-term ways to treat it, like the ashwagandha, short-term ways to treat it, like how to go to bed, when to go to bed, what to do during the day, and things that will help knock you out immediately. We'll talk about remedies that you can take at bedtime that last throughout the entire 8 hours of sleep. So I think it'll be a treasure chest of possibilities. And so we want to look at short-term solutions to help people get relief immediately, which is not going to be one tiny Ambien. It's going to be, enough dose of the right things, and we have to match the remedies. We'll go through dozens of remedies in this course, and we'll talk about who each one is suitable for. That's the thing that the internet is usually not mentioning. It just has a long list of things, go through them like a restaurant menu. Try melatonin, then try magnesium, then try. That doesn't usually work very well. We need to individualize it for the person. So, yeah, we'll clarify all those things and dive into those issues, Robin.
All right, fascinating. For those of you who are just joining us, we're here with KP Khalsa, learning about his upcoming course, End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More, and it begins Thursday, May 2nd. You can log on to endyoursleepstruggles.com for all the details and to register. So let's get back into the questions. This has been a fascinating conversation so far. I'm certainly learning a lot. Kia says, the pattern I have is that of waking up during normal sleep hours, and my creative and yogic muses seem to prefer this time for our work together, and the results are awesome, but I end up being sleep deprived. How can I normalize my bedtime several times a week, and what can I do to replenish my energy after an all-nighter? I feel like a superhero until daylight and then fizzle out big time. I'd really like to master this cycle.
Yeah, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about these underlying metabolic forces that regulate our entire body and our hormones, and just every aspect of how our awakeness and being asleep, all of that. So this underlying cold, dry metabolic force, as I said, rears its head in the middle of the night, unfortunately, and it's the time when human beings tend to be the most creative, but it creates exactly this issue that was mentioned, and that just doesn't work very well. So we all know that artistic types tend to be night owls, and the longer they stay up, the more energy they get, and they just want they're in a frenzy of creation, and they're painting until they can't keep their eyes open, and then they sleep where they fall, and then they get up and start painting again, and that works great for a while, but it's not a great long-term lifestyle, as our questioner discovered. And so she mentioned her yogic muses, and I'll tell you what the yoga answer to this is to go to bed earlier. And that's what I'm going to suggest anyway, is to be able to, going to bed earlier allows you to get up earlier so that you can have that creative time. The yoga and Ayurveda lifestyle, which is Kia is referring to, is to go to bed earlier, to go to bed with the sun. Now, the sun goes down at 6 o'clock, and in modern life, that's pretty challenging. Everybody wants to stay up as long as possible to watch as many Netflix episodes as they can binge, and then get up as early as possible to do other things and make it to work. I'm sorry, folks, it just isn't going to work that way. And the reality is we're learning through a generation of grinding through this and trying to get by on 4 or 5 hours of sleep that it's just not working, which is why we see all the things we talked about all over the internet about how important sleep is. So we need to have quality of sleep. We have to have adequate quantity of sleep. You have to sleep right straight through so that you awaken refreshed. The bottom line answer to this question about having creative energy early in the morning is to get up and start your day early, but to do that, you have to go to bed earlier. And I know that every meeting that you're going to go to starts at 8 o'clock, and all the TV shows you want to watch and all that. That's why video recorders were made, folks. So the thing that tends to cause insomnia is the thing that awakens Kia, early to do this so-called creative work. And as I mentioned earlier, that starts to really get roller. It starts to go kind of increase around 10 o'clock. So going to bed before 10, as long before 10 as possible, is the answer. The ideal time to start sleep is between 6 and 10. And again, when we lived in caves, that's what happened. During the winter in the temperate zones, we went to sleep at 6 o'clock. And as the hours got longer in the summer, we might go to bed a little later. But, people in caves, which we all were a blink of the eye ago, evolutionarily, we went to bed, we were long asleep by 10 o'clock. So going to bed earlier. But let me suggest one possibility as a remedy that might help. This is a remedy from the Caribbean called Jamaican dogwood bark. That's just a nickname for it. It's not actually a dogwood, but you'll find it under that name. And that can be used as a tea. So I would start out with about 5 grams. You want to simmer it for about an hour, 5 grams of the dried herbal material. You can easily get this online. And drink that in the evening, and then stair-step up the dose of, let's say, 5 grams each evening. That's pretty good for helping people sleep through that period of, their creativity trying to burst through their sleep. So that one's worth a try.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Let's go to, this is an anonymous question, but you were talking about going to bed early. So let's move into somebody who works the night shift. They say, how does the night shift affect our health? And how do we transition to normal sleeping over the weekend?
Oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this, and I'm so sorry my answer is going to be very satisfying. The answer is, how does it affect your health? Terribly. If we go to the science on this, you're going to find 1,000, probably literally, sleep studies on night shift work, and they're all bad news. And I understand we have to have police and firefighters and 911 dispatchers, and it just is what it is. And somebody has to stay awake all night, but they're going to suffer for it. Better to if you're going to work at night, better to work at night consistently and not have rotating shifts. Often people do shift work where they're graveyard for an evening, and then swing shift for a week, and then swing shift for a week, and then day for a week. That's the worst. Your body can never adjust. How do we transition to normal sleeping over the weekend? The answer is you don't. There's just no way to do that, and I'm sorry, but the only way we found out to really make this work is to stay on the night schedule. And I know that your whole family is up on the weekend, and you want to, do fun things with them on the weekend instead of sleeping. And you can't do it. There's no way to do that. You're going to have to skip some sleep period and then try to make it up the next day. So if you come home on Saturday morning after your night shift and try to stay awake so you can be awake with your family, you're not going to be able to sleep Saturday night, and 2 days is not enough to adjust. There just isn't really any way to do it. And, I'm sorry. If it just absolutely has to be done, then you just use some of the sleep aids, like the things we talked about, to help you fall asleep at night. And, maybe you could use melatonin to do that. Most efforts to do this are not very successful, and people just find themselves being really ground down by this process. And I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but that's the reality.
Okay, thank you. This next question, this person, it seems like they've tried literally everything. So let's see what we can do about this. It's an anonymous one. It says, I've had sleep problems for 2 years. I can get to sleep, but I wake up within 2 to 4 hours and then can't get back to sleep. I've been feeling cold all the time for the past 4 or 5 years. I have numerous other health issues. I've tried reading, counting, meditation, deep breathing, music, lavender, melatonin, night masks, light blocking curtains, sleeping alone, exercise, foot soaks, hot shower, therapy, journaling, etc. What's left for this poor person?
It's not a question of what's left, although there are other things that we can do. I mean, people often come to me and say, "I've tried everything, and there's 50 sleep remedies, and they've tried 2 of them. They just haven't heard of the others." So there's kind of a bottomless treasure chest. This reminds me of my latest book. I've written 31 books now, and the latest one was A Year of Living Ayurvedically. So I was teaching at a yoga center in another country. I met a woman there who proposed an idea that she would live there as a visitor, a guest, for a year, and I would treat her by remote, and we would work on every aspect of her lifestyle, diet, supplementation, all of that. And she was in a place that was supportive of that, so she didn't have to go to meetings, and she was newly retired. And she had the same issue where for the last 30 years before she retired, she'd never fallen asleep when she went to bed. She would go to bed and read for a couple of hours with the light on, with her glasses, and then she'd wake up in the morning, time to go to work. The light and glasses would still be on, and the book would be on her chest. And that was a 30-year process. So as we began to work on all these things and perfect them, not sort of rotating through trying one random thing after another, but conquering each of these things in a step-by-step way. A diet that fit her metabolism, proper supplementation, taking care of her nutritional deficiencies, supporting her immune system, supporting the proper hormone regulation, all of which we're going to talk about in the course. Slowly but surely, she began to notice that when she went to sleep, she was able to fall asleep immediately. And after that year of living that way, the whole thing just became a non-issue. And now she just goes to bed, falls asleep immediately, stays asleep all night, and awakens refreshed, which is what we want. That took her not all of a year, but it was a methodical process to get to that place over the course of the year. So that book is available on Amazon if you're interested. I'm sure you could just find it under my name there. But it was the transformation of an older retired American woman using these ideas, not specifically for sleep, but gives you kind of an idea of the way we're approaching this.
Okay, wow, thanks. Looking at the clock here, we have time for a few more questions, but before we take those, I want to give a few details about the course itself, because we're getting questions about that as well. Once again, it's called End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More, and this is going to be a really empowering 7-week journey under KP's expert guidance where you'll discover how your unique genetic profile can influence your sleep challenges, and you'll learn to apply specific botanical medicine to get the best possible sleep. I know I'm certainly looking forward to this. The 7-week course takes place on Thursdays at noon Pacific, starting Thursday, May 2nd. And if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on your course homepage. And also, the Shift Network offers a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until May 16th in this case to make sure that you absolutely love it. We want you to be happy. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can stay connected with one another and trade stories and help each other out. Everyone who registers receives the End Your Sleep Struggles bonus collection. First, you'll receive a video webinar from KP Khalsa entitled Anxiety, Cutting Edge Natural Treatments. Next, you'll get a video webinar from KP Khalsa called Sleep Soundly Naturally. Then you'll receive an audio dialogue with Richard Miller and Amir Khan, hosted by Philip Helmuck, entitled Restful Sleep for a Peaceful Life. Plus, you'll also get a 60% discount at the International Integrative Educational Institute web store. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Thursday, April 25th, you'll receive an extra gift, and that is a video webinar from KP entitled Herbal Solutions for Stress and Anxiety. So lots of good stuff there. KP, before we get back into questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to most sharing in your upcoming course?
Could you ask me the question again? I'm looking for what now? Sharing.
I'm just wondering, what are you most looking forward to teaching in your course?
I got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, I just talk to people every single day that have this issue, and we know just from watching the news any day that the sleep issue has just become paramount in our culture. There's a tremendous amount of information from the medical perspective and people with all kinds of ideas. So what I'm looking forward to doing is putting it all together in one place. That's kind of the problem that people have, as I mentioned before, about just random information. And they're trying things here and there. And it just, people have the expectation that each of these remedies are going to be like taking a sedative, and they're not. Magnesium has been mentioned several times by several people. Magnesium deficiency is the most common nutritional deficiency in our culture, and it's critical to be able to sleep. 95% of Americans have magnesium deficiency. But it doesn't make you go to sleep immediately. It's not like you take a magnesium pill at bedtime and you fall asleep. That can help a little bit, but it's really bringing up the storage level in the body, which is going to take a matter of weeks. So that kind of information that we can share together and go through this journey. Of course, we'll have communication with each other with our weekly sessions where we have Q&As every week. And then we have Facebook and all that, so we can dig into some people's individual stories a little bit more. But for me, the thing that is most exciting is that I finally get a chance to kind of lay it all out for people. And most people have none of these problems is the big specific cause of their sleep problems, but they have 10 of these problems, and they can put their finger in the dike in one of them, but now they have 9 of the problem. They don't have enough fingers to put their finger in the dike and solve all these problems. So if we do it consistently, methodically, we learn the background, we really understand the principles, and then we also use things like meditation and breathing, we get a full rainbow of these possibilities, and that's when it really starts to work.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and get back to questions here. We've got one from Denise, who says, I had 3 back surgeries, one of which caused me to no longer be able to sleep in the position I've slept all my life. I can now only sleep in 2 very exact positions in order to even fall asleep, but my sleep is interrupted constantly. Are we able to address issues caused by surgery or change in external sleeping environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, to a certain extent, if you have some kind of structural issue, you've had a surgery or something, we're not going to be able to unwind that. And so there are people that have permanent painful spots that make it difficult to sleep. But let me recommend a remedy that might be something to try there. And this is a Chinese herb called Corydalis, Coryddalis. It's a distant relative of poppy, and so it has these relaxant, warming, pain-relieving kind of remedies. It's the main remedy for pain in Chinese natural medicine, and you can use it just as a pain reliever like you would use ibuprofen or something. But it also is relaxing. So it's warming, which fits the profile of most of the people we've talked about that tend to be on the colder side. So it helps you just kind of, warm up, snuggle into the covers, helps blunt the pain so that maybe you can sleep in a few different positions. Corydalis is available in many forms. There are some concentrates available now, which just means that they've taken out a lot of the just fiber that's inactive and concentrated the active ingredient. I just saw a 15-to-1 concentrate on Amazon the other day, which means you only have to take a dose that's 1/15th of the dose you otherwise would have taken. So if you're going to use the regular Cordialis, it's just a chopped up dried root. You simmer it as tea. The typical dose is about up to 30 grams. So I would suggest trying a couple of grams to begin with, and you simmer it for about an hour on a very low simmer, and then you drink that. So increase by a couple grams per evening. It works very fast, knocks you out in 10 minutes, and it also helps with the pain. Or you could try one of these new concentrates. Amazon has several of them. There's a 4-to-1, a 10-to-1, this new 15-to-1, and those are encapsulated. So you just take one capsule the first night, find out what happens, 2 capsules the next night. You have to take a lot less of those things. Now, as we were talking, I was sort of referring back to the questionnaire that had tried, 1,000 different things. And I just wanted to mention that a very simple thing, but that helps a lot for people with these issues, is to have a diet that includes warm, moist foods. So this is a cold, dry energy fundamentally for most people that causes insomnia. And so eating a warm diet, so soups and stews, and not eating a lot of raw salads and raw vegetables. I find people with this sort of physiology often are eating a lot of salads because they sound healthy. And they are. They have a lot of nutrients. But if you can't digest them, it doesn't help. So raw vegetables are difficult to digest. And cooked vegetables generally would be better. But cooked food generally across the board. So you find these people eating a lot of room temperature white flour bagels and sugary things and things like that. That doesn't work. But we do need to eat food that digests easily. So if you find that you feel like you just ate a log for another 2 hours after you eat a meal, that's not working. That tends to create problems. It doesn't create problems with your sleep immediately, but it facilitates this ongoing issue where your body is unable to maintain your hormone balance. And so warm, moist food, soupy things is the way to go.
Okay. Well, I'm learning so much. Thank you for this conversation. Let's go to a question here from Vieira, who says, when I just can't sleep, my mind is going in circles, counting, not what I want to do. Looping in circles, is there any way to stop this overactive mind? And let's throw in a question from Sandy, who says, why is it so hard to fall asleep?
Well, because we're not living in a cave, and we have a lot of things going on. And so one thing that I see a lot is that people just go really hard right up till bedtime. They come home from work, they're still wired, they have a report that's due in the morning, they work on it at night, they put laundry in, they deal with the kids, they wash the dishes, and everything is just still frantic. It used to be when we lived in caves, there wasn't much you could do after the sun went down. You couldn't hunt for food anymore, pick berries or whatever it was. You have to come in, wind down around the fire and go to bed. So it's a combination of all these factors where people all of a sudden they realize it's 11 o'clock. I got to get to bed if I want to sleep and be able to get up and be fresh in the morning, and their body just can't shut down because we're designed to have that couple of hours of wind down in the twilight. And people's minds used to be a lot less busy. Again, living in caves, it sounds to us like it was a long time ago, but in terms of the way your body has evolved, it was just yesterday. We lived in caves a lot longer than we lived in houses with 24-hour electric lights. So that wind down is real important. We'll dissect all this very much so when we talk about the course. But let me suggest one very simple technique for racing mind, and that's alternate nostril breathing. It's just sit up straight and in a chair or on your bed. It's nice to do it right on your bed, so when you're done, you can slide right into bed. But it's a matter of just plugging one nostril and breathing in long and deep through, let's say, start with your left, inhale deeply, exhale, and then switching to the other nostril, the right nostril in this case, and inhale long and deep, and then go back to the other one. Alternate nostril breathing. That helps to reset the neurological balance of your brain and help to regulate these hormones. You could start for a minute the first night and increase, let's say, a minute each night. So you do that for 10 or 15 minutes before bed. That's a big help with racing mind. And I'll recommend one other herbal remedy. This remedy is called Shunk Pushpi, which is spelled just like it sounds, Shankpushpi, Shunk Pushpi. It's the above ground portion of the plant, so stem and leaves of this beautiful little blue flowering plant, easily available in the herb world, and that's specifically for racing mind. So it's not the most potent of these herbal remedies that we use, but it's likely to work quite well for this particular issue. And so that usually is taken in capsules or as powder. The dose is maybe 10 grams, so start with a couple grams at bedtime. It works pretty quickly, and stair-step the dose up until you find a reduction of your racing mind. So there's a couple things that you could try.
Okay, great. Let's move on to a question here from Annie, who wants to know, is there a link between insomnia and vitamin D?
Yeah, that's a very well-informed question, and there absolutely is. Vitamin D is at the same level of deficiency as magnesium. Now, vitamin D isn't precisely a nutrient. You can take it in a pill, but it's supposed to be made in your body from sunlight. So vitamin D is a regulatory hormone in your body. It's the only substance that we know about so far that has a receptor on every single cell in your body. So it just regulates everything. It's an immune enhancing, hormone balancing, stamina enhancing remedy that's critical, and you can't really get it from food. It's supposed to come from the sunlight. You can get a little bit from some food, but it's insignificant amounts. So we're going to have to use supplements. 95% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D, and part of it has to do with the fact that we're so deficient in so many of these other things, including actually magnesium, which we need to retain vitamin D in our bodies, and that we just can't process and retain the vitamin D properly. So most people these days have to take a supplement. And of course, we don't go outside anymore. And when we do, we apply sunscreen. So it's hard to make vitamin D in our own body. So I would recommend that just every American across the board, insomniac or not, get a vitamin D test and then deal with that issue. They're easily available online, cost about $50. You can do the whole thing. It's just a finger prick, and you send it back, and it's analyzed. Then figure out what you want to do about it. The blood level that we'd like to see is about 75 nanograms per milliliter. I'm not going to argue with 60 or 65, but 75 is the sweet spot. And so then you can supplement vitamin A to bring it up to that level. Many studies that show that sleep deficiency is correlated with vitamin D deficiency. And so usually using the supplement will help with that part. Now, that's only one part. Again, most people that have vitamin D deficiency have these other issues as well. Again, 95% with the magnesium. So it's, as we gradually put together all these pieces of the puzzle, we start to see the picture emerge, and we have to do all of them just because of the way we've lived and eaten. Most people, when they were born, were not nutritionally sufficient already. This chronic nutritional deficiency issue goes back 3 generations, and it's just getting worse. So we didn't start out where we should have been. We've eaten a diet that was not nutritionally sufficient. And now we're kind of stuck with all these issues. Plus, we lead a high-stress lifestyle. We have various, pollutants in the environment. Everything adds up to being kind of a perfect storm of slow degradation of our overall health. And sleep is one of the biggest predictors of that. So we have to dig into all these issues, which, of course, we will talk about in the class, and gradually nail each one of these things over time. And you figure out your 10 puzzle pieces of the problem that are causing your sleep issues, and you start to fill them in. Just like the woman who, I wrote the book about, you'll find that all these things wind down. In the case of that woman with the book, we weren't especially dealing with sleep. We were dealing with overall health, which improved dramatically during that year. So it's going to be, don't expect it's going to take a year to solve your sleep problems. I think by the end of, even halfway through the course, you will have found some things that will make a big difference. But to really optimize all these things is going to take a while. And we'll educate you about that and put you on the right path.
Okay, terrific. We're almost out of time here, but let me throw one last question in here. This is anonymous. They want to know, how do you use lavender?
Right. A lot of misunderstanding about lavender. lavender smells nice and is used as an essential oil. And there's some nice scientific research on using lavender oil as something that you apply topically. You apply a little bit to the temples. That helps sleep a little bit. You smell it somehow. Uh, that helps sleep a little bit. And all those things work, but they work a little bit. So in a scientific study, you're not looking to get 100% resolution with 100% of the people. You're looking to get any amount of measurable improvement. So if a person has, 50% sleep problems, and you reduce their sleep problems to 40%, then then it's a success in terms of the study. But the average person doesn't want to have, go from 50% good sleep to 60%. They need 100%. So the way to use lavender is to take it internally. And this work has all come out of Germany in the last decade, and it's really kind of hit the trenches here now. So you can get lavender capsules online. They're essential oil of lavender, perfectly safe to take internally. Many, many studies, all German work. And you take these capsules. It's really more for anxiety, and it really works better to take it during the day. It's one of the biggest additions to my practice in the last, 20 years, probably, when all this science came out and these pills became available. It's the number one thing that I use for anxiety now. So it's usually not so good for sort of pushing people down into sleep, but for resolving anxiety, it's great. So you can take it anytime during the day. And if you're anxious every day, you can just take a daily dose. But you can even use it when you start to feel anxious. It works in about 15 minutes. Take one capsule, find out how that goes. The next time, if it wasn't enough, take 2 capsules. You can take up to about 4 capsules per anxiety episode, and you could take a couple doses during the day. So that helps to ramp down the overall anxiety issue. So we talked about ashwagandha being good for anxiety and working very slowly. Lavender doesn't cure the underlying issue like ashwagandha is more likely to do, but it resolves it temporarily. So that's something that can help people just lower their overall anxiety and stress level. Usually not so good for putting someone to sleep at night. So anyway, lavender pills, that's the way to go.
All right, terrific. Wow, this has been just such an informational, packed hour. I want to thank our viewers for being with us today. And for all of your fascinating questions, I apologize we weren't able to get to all of them. So many great questions. Once again, End Your Sleep Struggles with Plant Medicine and More starts Thursday, May 2nd. And again, you can visit endyoursleepstruggles.com to learn more and to register. So before we cut you loose, KP, do you have any final words for our viewers?
I hope that everybody understands just sort of the way that all our lifestyle acts together. And that's been part of my mission for 48 years I've been practicing, but even more so now, because the knowledge we get is so overwhelming and so fragmented. And we have this sort of drug mindset where we're looking for, choose an ill, find a pill. And slowly but surely we want to work our way into this more holistic understanding. Okay, so there's a noise developing outside. Probably that's my cue to pull the curtain.
All right, great. Thank you again, KP. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. And once again, I want to thank everyone who joined us. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.